So, good morning, everyone in Austria. Shalom from Tel Aviv. My name is Markus Haas. I'm the commercial counselor of Austria in Tel Aviv, head of Advantage Austria, and I have the pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on import regulations in Israel. Let me briefly give you an overview of what we do before I present our experts to you. Now, Advantage Austria, our office exists since 1949 in Israel, and we support Austrian business here in whatever you need, from approaching new clients to basically running after unpaid invoices. We're not only in Israel, we have around 100 offices worldwide and support you wherever you need us. If I may ask everyone to put themselves on mute while you're not speaking. Thank you very much. Let me talk briefly about Israel. We have a population of 9.8 million people, strongly growing 2% per year, with the main languages Hebrew and Arabic. We have a GDP which is nearly that of Austria, and we import from Austria more than €500 million. And we have a very international scene here with multinational companies and a very thriving startup scene as well. I will touch upon that immediately. Now, of course, the elephant is in the room. The room is what has happened since the war broke out in October. We have seen a very sharp decline in GDP in the last quarter of 23, but still a plus for the whole year. And also for this year, we see a plus in GDP. This relates to strong government consumption. And of course, private consumption is also back to its pre-war levels. However, the budget deficit rose quite dramatically and is also forecasted to be high this year. And also foreign trade went down slightly, about 4% last year. The shekel had a weak moment in October, but the Bank of Israel stabilized with countermeasures this quite nicely, and now the shekel is around 4 shekel to the euro. Now, Moody's credit rating cut from A1 to A2 last month was not well received in Israel, of course. The other rating agencies might follow suit, but let's face it, it's not something that really that's really endangering Israel's economy. As said, Israel's economy will grow also in 2024. And also the consumer price index inflation is beyond the 3% threshold, so that's in good range. And the high-tech sector is still in a very, very good shape, contributing 18% to Israel's GDP. 10% of the labor market, and a quarter of tax revenues. Now, let's look at the export numbers and the import numbers to and from Israel. We've seen an increase during the first 3 quarters in exports from Austria to Israel by more than 3%. We're waiting for the final numbers. They should, for the whole year 23, they should come out on Friday. We've seen a slight decrease by Israeli imports to Austria. That's for the goods side. Now let's have a closer look which goods Austria exports to Israel. The vast majority is pharmaceutical products. It's around 36%, more than 1/3 of the exports is pharmaceutical products, followed by machinery and devices, mechanical machinery, then motor vehicles. Also motorbikes are doing very well in Israel. Electric machinery is next, plastics, base materials, and goods made out of base materials, mainly metal, and then testing material and testing equipment are the items to follow. Now, on the service side, Austria is appreciated by Israeli tourists. Last year, we could welcome more than 1 million tourist nights from Israelis in Austria, or we've had Israelis spend more than 1 million nights in Austria, which is, even though we had the downturn in the last few months, a huge success. Austria, on the contrary, is purchasing a lot of IT services. And overall, you see that in the importance of the trading partners, they're ranked approximately at the same level, at the 40th place. The business opportunities that we see in Israel for Austrian companies lie mainly in the infrastructure field, in environmental technologies, the energy sector. Israel is using half of its energy for cooling, and other manufacturing industries. Now, since the war broke out, we do not receive many Austrian visitors in Israel, but we try to turn around the delegations and bring more Israelis to Austria. I'm showing you here a few events where we will have either incoming delegations or a strong Israeli presence. So in April, we've got the Green Tech Days showcasing Austrian technology in that field, and we'll have an incoming delegation. My colleague Mela, who's also in the call, is administering the Vienna Up, where we have where Israeli startups can apply. That's the start of an investor conference, and we will also see a strong Israeli presence as well. Last but not least, at the marketplace food in October, and which is also of interest to one of our speakers, I guess, Eitan. And later this month, we've got a webinar on women's connecting our business women. With that being said, I would like to conclude my part. You know how to reach me, and I pass on to Barry, whom I kindly ask to take the mic, unmute yourself, and talk to us about import regulations and customs clearing and the challenges and that you're facing. Thank you. Barry, please unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
ארי, זה נמצא בשורה שם למעלה ליד האייקון של המצלמה. אתה רואה?
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear me now? It's okay? I understand that you wanted to get, first of all, some briefing about the situation of the Israeli logistic market vis-a-vis the world. And I got some hints that some of you would like to know about trade with the Palestinians. So I'll make it as brief as possible. The maritime trade to Israel is operating regularly, in the sense that all the 4 ports we have in the Mediterranean, and I'm talking about the South Port and Ashdod Port, Haifa Port and Bay Port in the north, are operating regularly. Actually, they haven't stopped working even for 1 day during the crisis. Shipping services operating regularly, except those from the Far East. And this is not because of us, it's because of the Houthis. They who created the situation where cargo from the Far East has to go via around Africa and via the Mediterranean to us. It takes roughly about 60 days, 65 days now, instead of 35 days before, 30 days. Air freight is operating more or less in the sense it's operating, but many companies are still not coming to Israel, but many of them have informed that they will begin operating within the next month or so. Some of them will do it later on, but we still, I can say that we still have a shortage of air freight space coming to Israel, because as you probably know, most of the cargo to Israel arrived in passenger airplanes in the belly, and since there was a big shortage of passenger flight to Israel, and many companies have switched from wide body aircraft to narrow body aircraft, so the carrying capacity has been reduced, and the prices reacted similarly, and prices gone up, mainly from Europe, and obviously from the Far East. Um, but I can say that after 4 months that we are in this crisis, uh, things are getting back to normal gradually, hoping that within a month or so we'll be completely back to normal, as long as we don't have another round in the north, which will probably influence us dramatically. Um, I can tell you that although quantities of cargo coming to Israel has gone down, this because demand has gone down, but we have more or less, I can say now, about 25% less cargo coming to Israel than before October, which actually affects the workforce, because for some time we had to cut short the working hours, because we didn't have much work, but it's returning gradually back to normal. I can say that, as far as the logistics sector is concerned, we by the end of this month will be um, more or less back to normal after the first 2 months, which were a bit difficult for us in the logistics sector. If you have questions about the present situation logistics in Israel, it's okay. If not, I want to pass over to the Palestinian side, because I understand that some of you are working closely with the West Bank. Because first of all, Gaza is shut. There is no way to bring or get out cargo from Gaza. Gaza completely from the 7th of October. There is no cargo going out and in Gaza. The West Bank, which is, I understand that it's a good market for your product. Um, we have in the first month and a half, we did experience a lot of problems because of shortage of manpower. So all the border crossing were not operating in the right in the same hours as before, and a lot of cargo cannot pass through the borders, which are controlled by the Ministry of Defense, most of them. Okay. Um, but there's one thing I want to share with you, and I want you to bear in mind that all import to the West Bank, all the regulation which apply to the import to the West Bank, have increased dramatically. So it's much more difficult now to move cargo coming to the West Bank, because the amount of regulations and amount of customs examinations which cargo has to go through has increased. And this for obvious reasons, because of what happened in Gaza. Now, what I suggest, and I strongly suggest, that if you are going to ship cargo to Israel, which is destined to the West Bank, make sure that all the regulations are approved before the cargo leaves Austria or leaves Europe. Because otherwise, as we experienced in the last 4 months, a lot of cargo, which is coming to either the airport or the seaport, and they cannot be released, and they still pay storage and pay demurrage if it comes in containers. So and I know that it's a bit harsh what I say, but make sure make sure that your importer approves to you, acknowledge to you that all regulations are approved for a product you want to ship. And this is the only way to get the cargo through all the barriers which we have at the present, and enter the West Bank. Because otherwise, the amount of payment and the cost of having cargo stuck in the port for your client is tremendous. We have cargo which arrived to Israel shortly after the beginning of the crisis, and it's still in the airport. And you understand that in the airport, the cost of storage is amazing. Is amazing, and people have to bear in mind that because of the crisis, there are difficulties, that somebody have to take some initiative and don't ship cargo before all regulations are approved as far as the import regulations are concerned. And if you have questions, I'll be more than pleased to answer.
Thanks a lot, Barry. Please, if anyone has questions, either write them in the chat or do turn on your camera and microphone and talk to us. Barry will have to leave before the other participants. So
yeah, I have some meeting in Tel Aviv, so I have to leave early. But I'm if they have any questions, listen. If they don't have the time now, or they don't have the questions now, they can send me an email. I can give you the email, and they can reply to me. But
we had just a question, Barry, if there are any problems with shipping with UPS to Israel.
From where?
From Austria, I suppose, but
No. The problems we face now is only from the Far East. Europe is not in this category. All shipping services from the Adriatic Sea and from Europe in general are operating smoothly. No problem.
We have a second question. Who will approve and release shipments to the West Bank?
Who will approve it?
Approve, yes, approve.
In what sense?
I read out what is written here.
I will jump in. My question.
I'll explain. What the system is that once the cargo with the importers of the West Bank, what they have to do, they have to apply for license to get us through. Okay. Now they have to provide all the documents. Once it's approved, there's no way to stop it when it arrives and it clears customs. But it's a system which every Palestinian importer knows that in order to get cargo, which is machinery or industrial cargo, they have to go and get the approval of the regulation in place called Beit El, which is not far away from Jerusalem, and get through. But if they don't approve it, and I say that now the approvals takes a long time, can take about a month or two. Okay, and I can't promise you that you still get the approvals. There are difficulties which I do hope that it will end shortly, but at the present I can't promise that things will operate smoothly because of the situation.
Okay, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Latza. She raised her hand before. Would you like to speak up, or should I read out your question?
Actually, I've written my question into the chat, so it's not really necessary. But yeah, I can tell that personally. 2 weeks ago, we've asked UPS to organize transportation to Israel. It was just a small package. We did the same shipment also at the beginning of January, and they have declined our appointment, and the same by GSL. What could be the problem? Because they've told us currently they are not shipping to Israel.
The cargo was shipped to an Israeli client or West Bank client?
Once more, please.
The cargo was shipped to an Israeli client or a West Bank client?
It should have been sent to Israeli client.
Shouldn't be any problem. See, all the courier services to Israel are operating with no any difficulties, which I know of. Cargo coming, flight coming, the cleared customs. There's no, I haven't come across any problem of courier services coming to Israel which are not allowed to clear customs.
I must say, for the Austrian Postal Service, they're currently not shipping parcels to Israel. They're shipping letters, but not parcels.
This is a decision of the Austrian Postal Service, but I know that postal services operate to Israel, operate smoothly. But this is something which I can't answer because I don't know. But all courier services in the first few days we had some problems because only DHL operated regularly with the flight. FedEx for the first 3 days stopped servicing, and I think after 4 or 5 days they resumed services. UPS operating smoothly. And listen, all flights gradually coming back to Israel, so there shouldn't be any problem. And if they told you that customs stopped it, there must be some other reasons, but not any reason that we know of. We don't
There was
have
a follow-up
any problem.
clarification, Barry. Maybe the content needed an import license. Now, we've discussed before starting the webinar, if the customer is a private person and it's a private import, then there should not be a problem. But if the item was for a company and was of bigger value, this could be the case, right?
Yeah, I can't hear. I don't remember getting any problems with Israelis importing cargo via courier services. All the e-commerce are operating, except those companies which decided to stop serving Israel. But Amazon is working okay, no problem. See, in the first 6 weeks, we did have problems, but since then, things are
Barry, there's one more
returning
question.
to normal. Yeah.
At which authority one has to apply for a license to the West Bank? Can you please give us a contact?
See, it depends. If it's electronics or communication, it's usually the Ministry of Communication, Israeli Ministry, they approve it, and the Ministry of Environment approve product which belong according to the HS number to their categories. So if I doubt very much whether people from or Israeli custom brokers or Palestinian importers have any difficulties in applying it to the right authority, because it's not the business of the Austrian exporter to do it, right? You cannot do it because you don't have a recognized number in Israel. But this is not a problem. All the relevant authorities are operating regularly. They furnish licenses once they go through all the security checks, and the importer get the license. But the difficult part is the security checks which they carry out.
Okay, Barry, I think we've got worked off all the questions for now. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll share your contact with the audience, like everyone else. I would like to move on to Merav. If you please take the floor. And Merav is from the Federal Association of Chambers of Commerce of Israel, and she's also an expert of customs and import. Merav, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So it's a very exciting time in Israel in the past few years. There is a huge understanding in Israel due to the high cost of living here. Everything is so expensive that we have to adopt the regulation in Europe regarding many sectors and many types of consumer products, such as electronic devices, such as food, cosmetics, and many more. So with that understanding, the government in Israel has accepted numerous reforms throughout the past few years. And I would like to discuss the most epic or huge reform that was issued in June 2022. Okay, this is the huge reform that shaped the way that we issue regulation and standardization authorizations. And later on, I will discuss the future plans of the Israeli government to strengthen that bond and make us, Israel, just like Europe. Okay, so we're not quite there yet, and I would like to explain the differences, okay? So this huge reform that I'm talking about that started in June 2022 is regarding 4 main sectors. The first one is products that have to comply with an official Israeli standard. And those types of products are various and a lot of products, such as electronic devices, plastic bottles that come in contact with water, okay, toys for children above the age of 3, faucets, a lot of building materials. So it covers a huge range of products. So those products that have to comply to an official Israeli standard, okay, those who are adopting the European standards can issue a full test report to this European standard, and depending on other documents, they can show this full test report, and they can get their authorization from the Ministry of Economy here in Israel. What I want to emphasize in that regard is that the famous declaration of conformity that those European manufacturers give you, the exporters, that this product complies to all of the European regulations and directives is not enough for Israel at this point, is not enough. You have to get your hands on a full test report certified by ILAC, which is an organization that has members of authorization organization that authorize different thousands of laboratories all across the world. So if you have this coveted full test report to the European standard that was adopted here in Israel, for instance, by the washing machine Israeli standard, okay, then you are basically good to go. Okay, so this is the difference, but you have to pay attention that we are not quite like Europe quite just yet, because declaration of conformity is not enough. Okay, you have to get your hands on a full test report. Okay, so this is in terms of all the products that have to comply with an official Israeli standard. The second group of products is food, and Eitan, which is going to speak after me, will address all the differences and how far we've come and what differences they're still happening today. The third group of products is cosmetics, and in terms of cosmetics, we've came a long way. So you have to present, you have to have here in Israel a representative that would come in contact with the European officials in order to get the technical file of this certain cosmetic item. And you can, if you have that, then you can go on a faster route in order to issue the cosmetics license here in Israel. And the fourth group of products is those electrical products, but a certain aspect of those electrical products, and the aspect is their efficiency, their electronical efficiency. How much power do they derive and do they waste? Okay, those tables, the A, B, C, you know, how efficient those electronical devices such as washing machines are. And in this regard only, not the safety regard, just the efficiency regard of electronical products, we have adopted Europe completely. So in this regard, declaration of conformity would be enough as of June 2022. So I want to talk to you about the future reforms. So we have gone through some changes done to what you see in the slide before you, the import and export law, which is about to come into force July of 2024. So in about 6 months, in about 5 months. And the change is not about the fact that you have to issue a full test report. This would still remain. The change would be that the Israeli importer is not going to have to present any kind of document to get the release from the customs. However, he is obliged and he has to keep all those official documents in the product dossier in his computers, okay, for at least 7 years. And this product dossier or product file is an obligation that he has to keep. And this obligation is starting from June 2022, okay? So the Israeli government is taking this reform one step forward and is relying on this product file and saying to the Israeli importer, we trust you that you are bringing a product that complies with the European regulation, okay? And we are going to test you whether we are going to step into the store and demand that you get us the washing machine and we will check it. And if you are found that this washing machine doesn't comply with the European standard, then there will be sanctions, okay? And I want to finish my explanation by letting you know that the Israeli government is planning yet another reform regarding food, cosmetics, electronical devices, and products that have to comply with an official standard. A new reform for 2025. And as fact, tomorrow they're going to issue what they're planning, and we are going to see it. What they're planning and what they're telling us behind the scenes is that an authorization that the product is marketed in one of the UN nations, one of the UN states, would be enough, without any type of other documentation. So this is just the beginning. It's just rumors. We don't know for sure how it's going to look, but you have to look out and keep posted, keep yourself posted on all of those regulatory changes in Israel, because we're trying to become like Europe, and we're trying to make your life as exporters and the Israeli importers' life a lot easier. So if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to state that the third section here, the amendment to the VAT law, is delayed because of the Israeli war to May. So it's not, and you can read about it in the link that is provided here, but it's going to start starting May. So it was delayed. Yeah.
Of course, slides will be distributed to our participants. We've got one question from a company that wants to bring an electronic device with a remote control and needs a radio frequency. Yeah. Now, these frequencies are also under military use, and the question is, how do they go about it? Which application do they need? Which Ministry of Communication they need to go to? Sure.
Yeah, okay. So in Israel, because a lot of frequencies are kept and saved for the IDF or the forces that keep us safe, we cannot adopt fully the European regulation regarding radio frequencies and Wi-Fi devices. Here, the Ministry of Economy has also gone a long way forward in certain products, but what you have to keep in mind that there is certain legislation that you have to be familiar with in terms of the Israeli Ministry of Economy, and there is a table that specifies those types of products, the object of use, and the frequency range, and it would state if you can import it or if it's not allowed. Okay, so you have to be familiar with those types of laws, and I can send it to you, but unfortunately I don't have a translation to English. Those laws are only in Hebrew. Okay, so if you would like to know how to overcome a certain radio frequency which is not allowed here in Israel, then you have to be in contact with an Israeli importer.
Thanks, Merav. If you can share the document with me, I'll make sure it reaches the person who requested it.
Yeah, it's in Hebrew, keep in mind. I just don't have a translation.
We can help with the translation.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. So as of now, I do not see any other open questions, and I would like to go ahead with Eitan.
Hello.
Eitan, I'll operate the presentation for you, so you just tell me when I have to click.
Yeah. Yes. Hello to everybody. Nice to see you all interested in the Israeli reform in food regulation, and in the current food regulation will still apply. As Merav started to say, in Israel, in every aspect you can think of, there's no dull moment. We don't have a moment of rest here from any way you look at it. That makes life interesting, a bit too interesting sometimes. Starting from 2015, the Israeli started the food regulation reform by issuing the General Food Law, something similar to European Directive 178, which try to cover all the aspects of the food operations. What is food under Israeli regulations is anything consumed by eating, chewing, or drinking, and is not a poison, a medicine, a toiletics, or tobacco. So everything else is covered by the food regulation. I would go in a moment to the current and regulating system that apply on food in Israel. But as a direct line from what Merav just explained, we are under a reform now. We are under a reform that nobody really knows exactly how it looks. It started, and I'll give a brief in a moment how it started. But as the picture shows, Moses is not yet down from Mount Sinai. Means we don't have the final rules, and I'm really be careful to tell you exactly how it's going to be ended, because I can give an example, and I will do it in a moment, how adapted European directives has been changed from the moment the adopted was decided to the real application. The food reform started a few years ago, and the aim was to ease reducing delays, removal trade barriers, try to make the Israeli food regulation as close as possible to international regulation, namely Europe, because Europe is the largest food trade partner for Israel. So the European regulation was chosen and not Codex or FDA, the US FDA or any other regulations. So the government of Israel and issue a decision that what's good for Israel, what goods for Europe is good for Israel, and online the changes in regulation shall take place. We are in a process of changing the food control system from license given by the authorities to the food business operators to a self-control and self-responsibility and risk assessment based safety procedures applied by the food business operators. We are not yet there, but we are on the track. So that's the basic lines. It will apply on legislation, and that's something I'm going to talk in a moment. What changes in legislation within Israel that will make it as close as possible to the European food regulations, changes in the import control, the application of the European track. Merav just said a food product that's been approved or sold in any of the EU countries shall be approved to be sold without limitations, without the need of any approval in the Israeli market. Means it can be exported to Israel, import to Israel without any barriers, and be sold in Israel, subject to remain Israeli law. And I'll get in a moment into the labeling and other issues that are still in variations from Europe. This European track shall apply to approved importers, which have their own safety system, food safety system, HACCP-based, same as in Europe. Only such importers that have a good record and they have their own food safety inspection system can apply for approved or good importing practice certification, and can apply to or can import under the European track without any limitations, as long as the product is approved for marketing or actually marketed in Europe. And other aspects of the reform, which is control rather than giving licenses and digitization and monitoring and enforcement. The process has started, and 3 European regulations already adopted in Israel and replaced current Israeli regulations. Microbiology, pesticides and food contaminants. Microbiology is European Directive 2073. I mark a star near it because Israel, not like Europe, has a zero tolerance method for Listeria and Salmonella. Therefore, we did not adopt the Microbiology Directive of Europe as is, but with amendments. Pesticides, we adopted the European directive, but the Ministry of Agriculture in Israel argue it, and still it's not applied. Food contaminants, luckily, the STAR has been adopted as is, with some problems, but it is adopted. So it's a European Directive 915 adopted in Israel, and we are acting accordingly. So food additives and flavorings, plastics in contact with food have been already, the Israeli regulations was just stating that if you comply with European plastics in contact with food directive or with the FDA plastic in contact with food law, you can actually you meet the Israeli demand. So those 2 issues, food flavorings and some additives and plastics, are already been in line with European standard. Other European directives, such as labeling, such as other directives, have not been yet approved in Israel. So we are on the track, and it will be very irresponsible from my side to tell you how it's going to end it. But the line and the idea is to be as close as possible to European directives in production, labeling, processing, import and export, and control of food items. Few food categories shall exempt from this, which is baby food, medical food, and some other. I hope that nutritional supplements should be also within the European track. Products from animal origin. This is still not yet, or it's yet to be decided, because the veterinary services in Israel are not yet, have not yet made the final decision what will be the future with the European directives for animal origin food product. Now, so after giving this background, you can understand that I'll better speak of the current situation. Current situation is what is the food regulations in Israel today. It's going to be changed, for sure. How much it's going to be close to European regulations, yet to see. For the time being, there are the Israeli food regulation is based on 4 government offices or government ministries that apply on food regulations. First of all is the Ministry of Health, the food control unit within the Ministry of Health that control all aspects of food control and food approval, and it's working under the Israeli General Food Law, which I just mentioned. From this General Health Protection Food Law, there are directives or legislation that derived from this law that control, and in a minute I'll go to variations from Europe. There's also, especially for non-prepacked food, the Ministry of Agriculture is basically very similar to whatever in the world. Means prepacked food is Ministry of Health, fresh produce and fresh meat and product is the Ministry of Agriculture, Veterinary Services. In Israel, we have a unique system of official standards. Believe me, you don't want to get into it. There are used to have over 150 official specific standards for food items. Luckily, we are now with about 20. But there's also some limitations regarding the labeling and the presentation of the product. We are struggling now to remove this, and Merav and her team is doing a really good job in trying to remove this obstacle, that there are still few unofficial standards that get its official statement from Ministry of Commerce. And there is a custom requirements for food like any other places in the world. I'm not getting into personal use food or samples or stuff like that. So basically today, if you want to import food to Israel, you have to apply for the Ministry of Health. There is a digital system. I'm sure everyone that's doing it today knows the way. It has to be, it's derived by product. You apply, you get a permit for import for a fee, and then the shipment comes to Israel, either being sampled for checking or laboratory check in the port, or released to the market. Responsible for this whole process is the importer. The importer is a food business, operates the same as in Europe. He's a registered company or person, and he bears all the responsibility for the food products to meet all regulations in Israel. So this is the current situation, and from here it's going to distribute for within the market. All legislation apply for importers as well as local production. And I think, generally speaking, today food items sold over Israel and the Palestinian Authority, whether it comes from Israel or not, is something like 50% produced in Israel, 50% imported, generally speaking. don't forget that most products produced in Israel are being made for raw materials imported to Israel. So you may say that the majority of the food is imported either as a raw material or prepacked food. Labeling, of course, has to be in Hebrew. Hebrew is the official labeling language. You may label the product in any other language, which can be Arabic for the Arabic sector in Israel and the Palestinian Authority, or any other foreign language, but any information given in Hebrew has to match the information given in other language. This rule, which still apply until adoption of European Directive 1169, which should be in the near future, but I cannot tell you how much it be close to European Directive, hopefully as much as possible, and when it's going to be. It's under process, they are working on it. But for the time being, there should be a similar wording and a similar content of the label in Hebrew and any other foreign language, regardless what language it is. Currently, until the adoption of 1169, as strange as it sounds, Israel doesn't have any allergen labeling regulation. It does have regulation regarding labeling of gluten, but that's all. And for sulfur.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I also want to give Tiki the chance to close it off. Do you want to say a word about kosher and halal?
I'll do it in a minute. Yes, I'll do it in a minute. Yes, thank you. So currently we don't have allergen labeling, but if the exporter from Europe knows that the product contains any allergen which has a health influence, he has to let the importer know about it so he can label it. Nutritional labeling is completely different from Europe. The table is almost similar, but we do have our own red marks and green mark front of pack labeling, which if you please go back to the green marks slide, green, red, that's it. Reds from right to left is saturated fat, sodium, and sugar. You can see by the drawings. Green is a food that meets the Israeli regulation for green food. Green means healthy, let's say, or more nutrition product. But it's mandatory. It has to be on the front of pack, and it's calculated by amount of each ingredient within the food product. Our other nutritional labeling issues are a bit different from the European Directive for nutritional labeling. Hopefully, once the 1169 will be adopted, Sorry? Okay. So labeling is the responsibility of the importer and distributor in Israel. Of course, he has to get all the information from the European exporter, and the label is in Hebrew in line with the Israeli regulations for labeling. If you go, please, for the next slide. Yeah. Variations from Europe. Some Israeli regulations either do not exist in Europe or going to remain here and vary from the regulations in Europe even after the adoption of the European or the European regulations in Israel. Israel demands tamper-evident packaging for food, not only for medicine. So at least for the time being, every food product has to bear any way of tamper-evident closing or sealing, which can be a band or a sealing or whatever, or a cork. And so this is one variation. Israel has a choking warning for children, for nuts, seeds, crunchy spreads, a list of products that might or may cause choking to small children has to be labeled. This is, as far as I know, this labeling is the only one that mandatory, has to be also in Arabic, not only in Hebrew. Israel have a natural labeling rule. I don't know exactly how it's going to be changed once the food labeling directive from Europe be adopted, but today there's a strict way of labeling food item and food ingredients as natural or natural ingredient, and this is also something for the European exporter and the Israeli importer to bear in mind. Alcohol warning, similar to Europe, but in Israel, alcoholic drink is not from 1.2% alcohol, but from 2% alcohol. We do have also an official standard for alcoholic beverages above 15% alcohol. Novel food, not similar to Europe, and as far as I understood, we are not going to adopt in the near future the European novel food. So not every product that is considered novel food in Europe is considered novel food in Israel, and this is also something that the European exporter has to bear in mind, because some items that are approved as a novel food in Europe are not approved in Israel. Please, next slide. Kosher, some other issues like kosher. What is kosher? Kosher is a product that is approved by Jewish regulations, very complicated, but we do have a law. And law is called anti-kosher foraging law, which state basically that every product that is labeled as kosher has to get a certificate from approved rabbi. Not any rabbi can give the kosher approval, but it has to be approved by the Israeli chief rabbinate. And this approval shows that the product meets the kosher issue. Halal certificate is not official, but if you get a halal official, it has to be from a Muslim authority that can give halal certificates. So both those certificates has to be presented once you present the product. Vegan, it's voluntary. There's no actual rule for vegan. It's applied under the general misleading or other labeling fogging issues. GMO. Israel does not have any GMO regulations. It's basically speaking, you don't have to mention that the product is GMO or non-GMO. The only thing that I am aware of is once you apply for a novel food, so any GMO product is a novel food automatically. But if the GMO product is not a novel food, like soybean, you can use it for any product and you don't have to label it. I think that's it.
Thank you very much, Eitan.
So this is generally speaking. I really want to repeat that we don't know where we are. We can really say what was. We think what is going to be the past, but you have really to bear in mind that there will be many changes in the near future, hopefully for the good.
In any case, our office will keep you updated.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Eitan. Before opening the floor to all other questions, I would like to give the word to Piki Lamdan, the CEO of Lamed Invest and Trade, has been working with Austrian companies before and is looking for new business opportunities. So now we come from the theoretical part to the practical part. Tiki, maybe you can first unmute yourself, please, and then give an insight of your daily work and what you're looking for.
Is this okay? Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so first of all, Marcus and the team and all the speakers and Austrian who are listening, thank you very much for this nice preparation and nice opportunity and for the nice job that you're doing in Israel, Marcus. And you are not afraid to be in Israel in these difficult times. So that's something that has some meaning for the relations between Israel and Austria. As to my company, we are a very old company. We are dealing in, especially in trade of construction material, building materials, industrial materials, starting from steel, wood, all sorts of building materials, whatsoever, plastic, chemicals, and I may say most of the heavy or industrial materials or commodities or semi-commodities, and also the related products. In Israel, maybe, I guess you know, but Israel is a huge importer of building materials. And if you take as an example, just as an example to show you the immense import of building materials to Israel, despite the fact that Israel is just 9-10 million people, we are the second largest importer of steel from Turkey, not per capita, but in general figures. So I guess, I mean, if you can imagine who will be the largest importers, not the United States, not Europe. The first one is Yemen, and the second one is Israel. So this means that there is an ongoing construction here. The population growth in Israel is huge, and the need of building, it's immense, as well as the country is developing very, very fast. We are building today on top of the general construction, a lot of roads, new metro system, metro line, light train lines. All these are multi-billion dollar projects, and they are happening while we speak. So from our point of view, although let's say Austria is not among the leading suppliers of heavy commodities, there are a lot of products and the semi-products and related products and related technologies that can be definitely imported from Austria to Israel. Although now the situation is not fantastic, but every downfall has also an opportunity, because we believe that when the war is over, there's going to be a huge demand for all sorts of construction material, industrial material, building materials, and also the related technologies. So it can be a good opportunity to start checking your ways in Israel and how to operate and how to work. The regulations, let's say, from regulatory point of view, in my business, it is not as complicated as in the, let's say, the food sector or pharma sector. Usually, if the companies are fulfilling the European norms and standards, there should be no problem to enter the Israeli market. I am not talking about, let's say, electrotechnical products, which are will request some more, let's say, detailed approval. But generally speaking, it should not be too complicated to make the certain procedures and to enter the Israeli market. And of course, we are ready to assist and to share the information. Let's say, knowing the Austrian industry and technology, I believe that there are fantastic opportunities, especially in electrotechnical areas, green building, because I'm sure that the building industry will grow, and there is a trend now to go for green technology and green building technology. Everything related to roads, bridges, as I said, metro, underground, and upper ground trains is going to be a huge a huge project, and I'm sure that there are a lot of Austrian companies that can provide, and not just the heavy product, but also the technologies and the byproducts. So I would strongly suggest to these companies to check and to try to find the way to Israel. What else did I want to say? About green building, green technologies, I mentioned already. Austria was very, very strong, maybe still is, in environment protection products and environment protection technologies. I think that Israel is just in the beginning of implementing environment protection technologies in here. There is a huge opportunity, we are far away from whatever is going in Europe. This is another segment that I believe will need a huge development. In brief, that's my share. If there is any question, I will be happy to tell you or to respond. And we are here for any Austrian companies that's looking for business opportunity.
Thank you very much, Tiki. With this, with your words, I would also like to open the floor to any other questions that might arise. But let me conclude also by saying that Austria's image in Israel is very, very good. Not only in recent days due to political reasons, but yeah, since I came here, I experienced a very, very positive feeling towards our country, and I'm very grateful for that. So I think our products are also appreciated. Of course, price is always an issue. China is the most important supplier of goods to Israel, has overtaken the US a few years back. So that speaks for itself, but quality from Austria is certainly appreciated. And in the infrastructure projects that you mentioned, Tiki, we're already present with small parts, but of course, our aim is always to grow that.
Yes.
Now, if there are no additional questions, I saw one that I will get back to individually. But other than that, I would like to thank all the participants. Thank you for speaking. Thanks for listening. I will distribute tomorrow the recording of the webinar as well as your slides. And if there are any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and we'll keep you posted on developments in Israel and vice versa.